So much stuff happened in the NBA, and who better to talk about the NBA with? Maybe somebody, I don't know, but we've got Sam Amick of The Athletic. Good morning, Sam. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good, David. Who else would you rather be talking to? It seemed like you were teasing another guest that would be better.
Nobody. No.
There is none better.
There's none better. We listen. You're in demand. You're a national writer. You are on the Mount Rushmore, I believe, of best NBA writers in the entire country, and it's only because of our local connections, really, that we're able to get you. So we appreciate you giving us the time while you do, because it's probably going to change at some point. You'll be too busy.
I love your passive aggressive nature. It's so great. Is this how you are with Melissa when she does something a day late, like I did in rescheduling our interview?
I wasn't even thinking about that. But that's right, Sam. You were not a day late. You're 6 days early, and we appreciate that.
There you go.
Sam, is Ben Simmons going to play for the Sixers this year? Excuse me. No, he's not. Second question, is Ben Simmons going to play for Brooklyn this year? I am kind of obsessed with this. I think it could make a huge difference, but this continues to be maybe the biggest, weirdest mystery of the year.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I would definitely say no. It doesn't seem like he will. He's got a back problem that, I tell you what, this year in particular, between Ben Simmons, James Harden in particular, it's like, I hate this cringy thing we do where, are guys lying about their bodies? Do they just not want to play? And sometimes they are lying, right? And but with Ben, everybody wanted to call him soft and say that this was all made up. And then it's like, oh, he got an epidural injection. Well, they don't do that if it's not real. And then, admittedly, I actually listened to, I guess I help you give you guys a little plug. There's a podcast with guys named Jeff Stott and Brian Sutter, are two certified trainers who tackle all things NBA and health. And they had this really good pod breaking down Ben Simmons' back. And that also kind of led me to feel like, all right, like this is legit. Now, it is certainly puzzling why, this wasn't a bigger part of the story when the trade happened. You know what I mean? They were sending the messaging as far as his camp that he was going to be ready to play. The back obviously got worse or at least didn't get better. So I don't think we're going to see him.
I'm not asking you to be a doctor here. I understand that, but your point, it occurs to me, isn't that something generally you think would show up on a physical? And if that's the case, is there a chance Sean Marks and friends waived that with Ben Simmons coming in? That's the big thing I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't have clarity on how they handled the physicals. That does obviously happen sometimes. I believe they were at this point. Correct me if you guys have read anything different, but they are, identifying it as a herniated disc, and that's not a small thing. So maybe it takes a turn for the better and he's there in the playoffs, but they are kind of treading water without him. Kevin Durant's incredible. Kyrie obviously just got the break from the mayor of New York that he'll be able to play on both sides other than Toronto. So, but yeah, the Simmons component is still pretty unclear.
Well, and Sam, everything they've done is to win a championship, even to get Harden, to move Harden, to get Simmons. And even the news for Kyrie, that is good news for him. But is this a good enough team without Simmons then to win a championship?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they're really good. They'd be very capable of what would technically be a first round upset. You know what I mean? That's not who you want to see in the first round. But not to win the whole thing, I don't think. I mean, you guys mentioned Phoenix and how great they've been. The East has got, I just saw Philly beat the Lakers. It wasn't a very impressive game, but, Philly's finding their way, and I think they're 11-4 since they got Harden. So, Milwaukee's still the defending champs, dangerous. Just a lot of good teams. So I don't think I would have Brooklyn in my top three if they don't have Simmons.
Well, the other one, we were talking about superstars with injuries. The NBA world got rocked a little bit the other day on Instagram when Zion Williamson posted that video. That wasn't just Zion doing drills or even dunking. That was Zion doing a full-on slam dunk contest between the legs dunk. And, of course, dunking doesn't equate to NBA play. First off, next year, you look at the way that team's laid out with McCollum, Ingram, and Zion alone. But secondly, is there an outside chance we see Zion at some point in the play-in, if applicable, or this year? You think he's still done?
My colleague at the Athletic, Shams Charania, who is typically pretty on point, reported that Zion is done for the year. So, that's what he's being told. But then it does beg the question, you got to love, and you guys were around similar ages. Like, isn't it wild how social media has just changed the game in terms of, the player communications? The fact that he has a platform to do something cryptic, like put out this kind of a video that leaves people wondering, what does it mean beyond the dunk itself? Yesterday on ESPN, they're saying that they thought it was a way of him saying that he wasn't in line with the franchise and that he was healthier than they were letting on. And that, then you're saying, all right, is that his way of saying, get me out of here? I don't want to play in New Orleans. So always a lot going on there. But, yeah, I mean, unless things change, it doesn't look like he's going to be back this season.
So that last part you brought up, Sam, it always has felt like there is something there between him and that organization. I don't know how valid that is or not. They got to decide on what they want to do. And if he missed, the bulk of one season, this season as well, I mean, you just don't move on from a guy like that without getting anything. You think Zion's a Pelican long term?
It doesn't feel like it, and I do think that stuff is fairly real. The chatter about his family, not wanting to be there, that, you can blame the media all you want, but that comes from them actually sharing that sentiment with people. And, that's been the thing for a while, is that he, ever since he played in the Garden in New York City and was really open with the media about how much fun it was and how, other than New Orleans, there's no other place he'd rather play, that started the speculation. The problem now for them, the Pelicans, is you've had a fairly small sample size of absolute brilliance when he's healthy, not only an all-star, like a guy who could be MVP caliber, and a whole lot of injury time and mystery about his body. And now you have an extension situation this summer that, where they're going to try to get a deal done. And it's going to have to be something along the lines of Joel Embiid and his first extension. You guys remember you had all kinds of provisions about games played and protections for the franchise because of the health history. But, that doesn't mean that Zion has to agree to that stuff. So probably a contentious negotiation coming up. And then if they don't get a deal done, then it's like, wow, is he going to take the qualifying offer and kind of earn his freedom a year later, which is a risk given all that health history. So for sure, one of the more compelling situations in the league.
Unfortunately, not a ton as we get into the playoffs to talk about when it comes to the Kings. And even more unfortunately, the biggest news for the Kings this year was something off the floor. Sam, I'm not bringing you on to talk about domestic violence and adjudicate a situation that is all around sad and people have absolutely no business talking about on social media, but that won't stop them. And I also don't want to downplay it, because what happens off the court, we all agree, we're all good people, is far more important than what happens on the court. But I do want to ask you just about the nuts and bolts of these situations, just so fans can kind of understand to the best of our abilities how these things are handled. We're talking, of course, about Rashawn Holmes and the allegations. Domestic violence, some very, very scary sounding things out there. My question for you on that is simply this: to the best of your knowledge, are these things generally now out of the hands of the franchise itself? And what I mean by that is usually now where the NBA kind of takes over, things on hold, the justice system does what it does, and then at that point the NBA and their front offices meter out any sort of punishment if applicable. Could you, to the best of your knowledge, kind of take us through what usually happens just procedurally here?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. There will be, yielding to the courts. Now, listen, this stuff they do control, and you saw some of the messiness of this over the past couple of days, is they control their own message. And so they took a lot of understandable criticism for having put out, a release that did kind of paint Rashawn, like, independent of what truly happened, which we don't know, painted him as a victim in terms of the tone. And if anything, you got to play it down the middle. So I think that was probably a miss. And then the league, now that the sensitive nature of it is known, the league at large is going to want to make sure that the messaging is appropriate. So you saw a follow-up statement that kind of tried to draw a line between Rashawn's situation, but then, they declared that they are, I forget how they worded it, but very much against things of this nature. But then wanted to
talk about the King statement.
Yes, the King statement. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just you're talking to your community, right? Like, you're talking to your fans, and that's the problem, is that anybody who has been a victim of this kind of a thing, you're doing them. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but you are doing them some emotional harm if you act like this is no big thing and hey, it's nobody's business. Well, he's a pretty prominent public figure in town, and so the messaging is now what they can control. Beyond that, they wait to see what happens in court. They decide when he's obviously shut down for the season, and so the basketball part has already been decided. Very unfortunate. So yeah, and admittedly, I was stunned by it. I found myself, I wasn't, and stunned just in terms of, for whatever reason, when I saw that they had him out for personal reasons, I didn't know if it was just, the eye or this or that. I didn't dig. I didn't ask around. So, when I saw the headline from the Bee, I was as shocked as everybody else.
Sam, I got to ask you, I'm sorry, let me follow up, Jason. I got to ask you about this too. And I don't want to put you in a bad spot. I go way back with the Bee. I do. And love them. And that was my first job in media. And you and I are both very much in lockstep when it comes to these types of situations, and how it is not our place to, it doesn't matter how nice the person is or what team he plays for, and innocent until proven guilty, no doubt about it. But at the same time, you cannot speculate publicly. And I love the Bee. I say this because I'm about to crap on him a little bit, but I did not like the way they handled it. I didn't like the way that the news broke, and an opinion piece was in the middle of that news breaking, and you had both people finding out about what happened, and then a writer who I'm sure is a very fine writer putting out their stance on it from an opinion point of view. Now, I'm not asking you to crap on your old colleagues. I'm just asking you to educate me. Is that the norm? Is that, am I overreacting there? I mean, I'm honestly curious if that's something that I just haven't noticed before, or if that's kind of a minor breach of how this should have been handled.
No, I mean, I'm with you. I've got a lot of love and loyalty for the Bee. They were a huge part of my career. And I was, from simply a news standpoint, my initial reaction was that, this is somewhat, as far as just covering the truth, my first reaction was that, geez, nice scoop by the Bee. I was impressed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I only mean that, and I don't want to celebrate something so negative, but
I know what you're talking about.
It's a scoop. Like, a player wasn't playing. Nobody really knew why. Now we know why,
Right.
To the question though, you guys know me well enough. I'm not going to BS you. Like, I was disappointed. I don't understand the choice. To me, it's a pretty straightforward news story with objectivity and the information, and then 100% write the op-ed, write the opinion piece. Just do it separately. It really. I talked to somebody, an old college journalism buddy of mine, about this yesterday. He had made the same exact point without me even bringing it up. And I said, I read the column, and I went from like, damn, nice scoop, Bee, and then halfway through, it was just like, oh no, what are we doing? Now we're in an op-ed. So I think it was a miss, but again, I do give him credit for getting the news part of it. I just think it should have been two stories.
No, we obviously agree, and I'm just going to piggyback on what you said as we wrap up here too, because listen, there's separation of the real world stuff and there's separation of the basketball ramifications, which we talked about. And you have to be very careful, and that's why we do these huge ramp ups and qualifiers, because it's pretty heartless just to say, well, how does this affect trade value?
Right?
Who cares?
Exactly.
You care about what matters, and I think to Sam's point, not that he needs my help, but you can say for a horrible story, yeah, it's a good scoop, especially when you're a paper of record, and all papers here locally or all paper, a lot of papers are struggling these days, and you've got so many different places working that it didn't matter who it came from, the Bee or anybody else, that there was some extra work done and some extra digging done. And in this case, the Bee did that. They worked very hard to get what was a horrible story put out there. But at the same time, we're just talking about the nuts and bolts of the whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%, beyond fair to report why. I mean, it's like I said, it's a, anybody who tried to accuse them of sensationalism or just trying to drag Rashawn's name through the mud publicly, like, it is what it is. I'm sorry. He's accused of very serious things, in the court system. That becomes newsworthy every day of the week. So that was, definitely met the mark of kind of good journalism. It's just, again, just a weird, I don't know that I've ever seen an op-ed that started off as a scoop and then back-ended as a big picture look at the topic at large with a lot of opinion. So, I'm with you.
That's why I asked. No, I appreciate it. Sam, always appreciate you.
Sam.
Thanks for going behind the scenes on so many different things for us. We will, per Sam and his agent, have him back next Thursday at 8 a.m. You never know. You never know, but we're just happy to get him when we can. And good Lord willing, that relationship will continue at least another week. Sam, you're the best. Oh, I'm sorry. Sam, you can read him and all his colleagues. I apologize, at The Athletic. Just download the app. Make sure you get on there. Wonderful deals right now, as low as $1.99 I've seen, which is a steal at let me see, 10, 11, 12 times the price. So make sure you get yourself the Athletic subscription. Read Sam and so many other people. See, Sam, I gave you a nice plug.
That was good. All right, I'll leave you with this. You can give me a hard time all you want. I don't feel bad for either of you, because spring training is one of my favorite things ever.
Yeah.
And I haven't been in a
come
very
with
long
us next time.
So I'm jealous.
Come down with us. Come down with us next time, Sam.
Here's the truth. You're not that you're kidding, but we should pull this off, because these Phoenix Suns, I don't think, are going anywhere anytime soon. And I didn't used to.
You can make it a work trip.
To have a reason. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's partly why I could never get out there. The Suns were irrelevant, but that is not.
Would it help if we wrote a letter on stationery to Emily, set it up, saying that you'd be doing some work down here? Could you please excuse Sam for 3-4 days? He's got to come down here and work. He's going to do double duty with us and sit in. We'll do whatever we can to get you.
She might want to come. She doesn't go to a lot of sporting events, but that's one.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She'll be out there chasing home run balls with me.
Okay,
nice.
Perfect. A year from now, we'll have something scheduled with Sam, and he'll come down an hour later. So awesome, Sam. Appreciate you as always. Was that passive aggressive? That was kind of.
No comment. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. That's Sam Amick. We are way late for a break. We're searching for Chad Pinder. He's a craft